Now, after several years working as a social worker and using her own experiences to support her ideas, Carolyn Barber wrote a practical guide of ways to improve mental well-being. Carolyn joins us in the studio to tell us more about her book, which I've got here, and give us a tip or two. Thank you very much for coming in. So how did this come about?
Okay, so the story goes really that in 2010 I had to close down a business. I had my own business that I'd set up for about 3 years, which was a training and wellbeing venue in Portsmouth in Southsea. And I knew I was going to have to close this down, and I knew it was going to be a really challenging period. And I was quite concerned about my own mental health at that time. And I knew I was going to have to, you know, if it's a bit like if you've got a difficult challenge ahead of you, you've got to kind of prepare yourself and think, I'm going to get through this process of closing down my business. And the reason I was so concerned about my mental health was because some 20 years previously I'd had a mental health breakdown and been diagnosed with clinical depression and severe anxiety disorder. So, you know, although I was mentally better, I was very aware of my own mental health. So I developed. So at the time, in 2010, I developed a kind of framework for myself, thinking about how to look after my mental health during this period. And that framework I called the 5 C's. And then out of that, I then started teaching this to other people and running workshops. And then I had the idea of developing an A to Z guide to different ideas and activities and therapies that are out there which help towards good mental health.
And I mean, the A to Z guide is basically what's in the book.
Yes.
But why do you think it's so important to look after our mental health? Why do you think it doesn't have that kind of same status as physical health?
Okay, well, there's a lot of stigma around mental health for all sorts of reasons, but it's getting better, I think, and people are talking about it more openly. But it's still seen in terms of, you know, mental health problems or mental illness or issues, and I like to promote the idea that we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health, and there's things that all of us can and do, in fact, to keep our, you know, mental health going on a good level. So if we're so if you think of it as a spectrum, if you like, if we're and very often all of us go up and down that spectrum through our lives, you know, because of all sorts of challenges or experiences or whatever. If we're in a period of good mental health, we're probably doing all kinds of things that help support that, but we don't realise what they are because it's not really talked about. Whereas with physical health, you know that if you look after your diet, you exercise regularly, there's certain things we all know that help to look after our physical health, but we don't know that about our mental health. So if we then, for whatever reason, our mental health gets poorer, we're feeling more stressed, anxious, you know, whatever's going on, we forget about the things that we were doing to help look after our mental health.
And what kind of things are they? And I mean, some of them you talk about in some detail in the book. So what kind of things?
I mean, some of the things are very ordinary. I mean, exercise, just as it's good for our physical health, is really good for our mental health as well. So there's lots of research that demonstrates that. And in fact, there's some GPs that actually prescribe exercise to help people with mental ill health. Things like connecting with other people. So if we're feeling depressed or anxious or stressed, we tend to cut ourselves off from other people, you know, become more isolated. So actually, literally the act of connecting up with other people helps support our mental health. Lots of other ordinary things that we kind of don't really realise.
And if someone's watching that is concerned about their own mental health or their mental health of somebody else, what would be your message to them?
Okay, so there's quite a lot of things that you can do to lift your mood. and things like exercise, going out and meeting people, trying to find opportunities just to laugh, are ways of lifting your mood, even if it's only temporarily, because it's almost like the more we do that, then you kind of start to get on a more positive spiral. There are masses of things that are good for our mental health. Having a pet, having a dog is really good. So, you know, borrow a friend's dog and take them out for a walk, because, you know, animals, well, they're just brilliant. You know, you're helping to look after something else. You've got the physical contact that comes with a stroking an animal.
Yeah.
Socialising by taking it out for a walk. You know, there's lots of things.
Well, Carolyn, I'm afraid we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.